Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition event. Mental health has no age limit. We are happy to have everybody here with us this morning, and our presenter for today is Lesline McEwan. We would like to do a land acknowledgement for this event. We recognize that Ottawa is located on the unceded territory of the Algonquin Anishinaabe Nation and extend our respect to all First Nation, Inuit, and Métis people for their valuable past and present contributions to this land. We also recognize the continent of Africa as a cradle of humanity. We extend our respect to all people who identify as African, Caribbean, and Black, and the contributions they have made to the development of human civilization. We recognize that we are in the latter part of the UN Decade for People of African Descent. Under the themes of recognition, justice, and development, we take this opportunity to reflect our current condition in this country and continued work with our allies towards making long term improvements to the lives of our diverse people on this shared land. And I want to thank you again for joining us this morning. And over to you, Leslie.
Thank you. Thank you. My name is Lesline McEwan, and I'm a registered psychotherapist here in Ottawa. Has been at it for 20 years, and I'm really happy to be a part of this Black Mental Health Week with the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition. It's been a long time coming, and I'm happy to see it. If you want more information about me, you could look at the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition page, and there's the Black therapist, etc. All right, so hope you will find this presentation helpful today. So we go on to our disclaimer here, and you can see it. Just to be clear that this is not counseling, no diagnosis is being made here. It's solely for educational and information purposes. And if anyone is uncomfortable watching this, it's voluntary, and you could always disengage. So now we come to the topic, Black mental health. The focus today is going to be on senior, but I'll start here at the beginning because our mental health is a continuum. It's a lifelong thing. Not only is it a continuum in terms of where you're at any point in time, but it's also lifelong. And be clear, mental health is not mental illness. Now, our mental well-being is deeply impacted by social determinants of health. And as people of color, Black people, we know that racism plays a part. Now we look at the mental health continuum, and I'll speak to this for a few seconds. Mental health includes our emotional, psychological well-being. It affects our thoughts, our feelings, and our behaviors. It affects our relationships with others. It's very important at whatever stage of life you're at, from childhood through adolescence to adulthood to seniorship. Now, as I said before, it's a continuum, and I just want to point out a few things on this continuum. We can be anywhere on this continuum during our lifetime. It just depends on what's going on. You know, we could have an incident happen. Take, for example, COVID. I am sure, well, I'm fairly certain that most people is not at their optimal mentally in this time that we're all in. Things happen, you know, we suffer a loss, whatever the case may be, that may disturb the equilibrium. So when we look at this, there's the mood, the attitude, sleep, physical health, and activities. What we want to do is be at the healthy stage. If we're not there, we could be at the reacting, the injured, or the ill. Now, the goal is to prevent getting to that stage. Some of the things we can do, and especially to maintain that healthy state, is, you know, deal with our problems in a manageable way, look for our support system, and maintain a healthy lifestyle. And at this point, check yourself And from this chart, where are you on this continuum? It doesn't have to matter what your age is. Where are you on the continuum, especially taking COVID in consideration? So that's something for you to think about at some point in time. Now we move on to the next prevention or the next barrier in being in good mental health. It's a barrier, and that's the stigma. Because the word mental illness leaves a lot of discomfort. People feel really uncomfortable because they don't understand what mental unwellness is. You know, when you're mentally unwell, it is like any other sickness. Depression, it's a real illness. It's not a sign of weakness. It's not a character flaw. It's not a picture of your moral state. And it's something that you can't just snap out of. You know, we wouldn't say to someone with diabetes or high blood pressure, snap out of it. Yet it seemed to be the way that we deal with people who are having any kind of mental problems. Now, the stigma against mental health, when we speak about the stigma, automatically we start thinking, oh, it's the stigma from others. But some of the most damaging stigma, it's from ourselves, our own personal stigma, you know, our social, our family beliefs, and even from the mental health condition itself. You know, someone may be acting different than the cultural norm, and there's that stigma. So we have to work on breaking that stigma, starting with our own. Because if we work on our own internal stigma, each person does that, then it will break the societal stigma in general. And the fear of people who are experiencing mental problems, the lack of awareness, and the need for education and the wrong perceptions, these are the things that maintain this way of thinking about mental illnesses. So, but through understanding and education, we can eliminate it. And we should all make a commitment to ourselves that we are going to work toward eliminating mental illness. Because as I like to say, without mental health, there is no health. Now, speaking about mental health and Black mental health, I could not discuss that without talking about the social determinants of health. And as we see there are 15 key determinants. And I created a little chart that showed some of the ones that I will touch on today. And I say touch on because there's a lot involved. Now, racism influences health at multiple levels. You know, it reduces our access to those positive determinants and therefore exposing us to the risk factors of physical and mental illness. Uh, the Public Health Agency of Canada, they're the one who published those determinants. And you know, it says Black Canadians experience significant social challenges that has negative implications for their mental health. And these include, as we see there, you know, discrimination, uh, barriers to education, higher levels of poverty, social exclusion, uh, you know, disproportionate negative interaction with the law, children's aid society, lack of access to culturally appropriate resources. And that all contributes to poor health. And let us be clear that when we speak of health, we're speaking here of our mental health and our physical health. We can't separate them. One of poverty is one of the big ones. And in Canada, 14.2% of the population experiences poverty. Of that total people of color, 20.8% compared to that 14 for the general population. And when we break it down to Blacks, it's 23.9% who live in poverty. And generally in Canada, if you're not a person of color, it's 12.2%. And if we go to Ottawa, the total population, 12.2% experience poverty. The total people of color in Ottawa that experience poverty is 23.6%. And if we look at Blacks, it's 28.2%. So we see, without any explanation, we can see how poverty affects one's life in so many ways. It leaves us in precarious housing positions, more prone to food insecurity, and all the negative determinants that contribute to poor mental health. Another item of note is income. Over 3 generations, Blacks have experienced a constant decrease in average income compared to the other groups. You know, the non-visible group, they have consistently increased in income. Other socioethnic groups have increased, but Blacks have gone down consistently. So your, for let's say a millennial, I'd say your grandmother was earning more than you did. Your mom was earning more than you did. And here you are. And in this situation that we're living in, where does that leave? What does the future look like? You know? And again, I talked about food insecurity. 3.5% Blacks are more likely to be experiencing food insecurity. And this is coming from the Black Health Alliance and Food Share. So there's a great disadvantage existing for Blacks when it comes to the factors, the social determinants that affects our health. Now, another really important one is employment, because without employment, there's poverty, there's scarcity, and living in all kinds of lack and shortages. So when you look at the Statistics Canada data, it shows that in the population, the highest rate of post-secondary education is Black women. They're the most educated. That's what the StatScan data shows. Yet, in correlation, they have the lowest employment rate and they have the highest unemployment rate. Now, you try to make sense of that. So there goes the racism, which in turn is affecting the employment and the earning capacity. So there's a lot there, you know, the income and social status, it's all intertwined. We have the education, but we can't make the money. And so there's a lot involved in that. And, you know, I can't go into it all. So I'll just move on to some factors that are affecting mental wellness. In the teenage years, factors affecting mental wellness. There are years that are more vulnerable. And the teenage years is one of those, 40 and over, which of course leads to seniors. And you might wonder, why teen years? You know, in that stage, the young people are going through a lot, hormones, changes, all kinds of stuff is happening for them. They're trying to become, and it's a very stressful time. And so that's where it's more likely to happen. You know, you might find, you know, drug use, alcohol use, and in that period, peer pressure, etc. 40 and over, life stressors. So there is that. And then you might say, you know, so those are factors affecting it. What causes mental illness? And I wouldn't say what's the cause. I'd more say what factors are there. Early life experience. Some people have had traumatic childhoods, abuse, sexual abuse, witnessing violence. Those things will eventually affect their mental health, how they see the world, how they're informed. Then there are people who have chronic illnesses, lifelong chronic illnesses, diabetes, cancer, and a whole lot of other things. That too affects one's mental health. And of course, we're not going to forget the biological factors. There's a chemical imbalance in the brain. Um, there's also that I say a predisposition. I'm not going to call it genes. If you have a family history of certain mental issues, you're more predisposed to have that. The only thing is I'd say is if I have a family member or a close family member who say had diabetes, let's say my mom had it, I would know that I need to take special precautions and be careful with my diet and my lifestyle. And it's the same thing if someone has, a family history of any mental issues, be aware of it. Don't be ashamed of it and take the necessary steps to reduce the mental strain, the stress, and all the other things that will contribute to that. Um, Drugs and alcohol is another one. And sometimes you wonder which, the chicken or the eggs, which comes first. Because a lot of people who are experiencing mental health issues, they self medicate. And so it's that cycle that never ends. Now, loneliness and isolation is another one that contributes to mental health issues. And earlier I talked about the 40 years of age, the people who are in that age group. It says, the CAMH says that by the time Canadians reach the age of 40, 1 in 2 have had a mental illness. And 70% of mental health problems have the onset during adolescence. There's a high probability of experiencing some kind of mental health issues. 1 in 5 Canadian experiences a mental illness or addiction problem. Young people 15 to 24, as we talked about the teen years, are more likely to experience that with substance use or other disorders. So let's not think that mental health, mental unwellness has nothing to do with me. Most people believe that these disorders are rare and happen to someone else. No, of course, not me, right? But it's common and it's widespread. It does not discriminate. It affects all age group, all genders, all ethnocultural groups, and all social economic groups. So we all have to be aware and on the lookout for mental health concerns. So at this point, I'll pause, and if there are any questions or comments, we could, yeah. Mhm.
We do have a question in the chat. There's not a lot of discussion in the community on mental health and Black seniors. Is there websites or information that where they may be talking more about it?
Not specifically on Black seniors. The thing is, I'll just go back a little to stigma. There is not a lot of research on Black seniors and mental health. One of the reasons for that is stigma. Whenever you approach generally an older individual in that group, they back up. They don't want to talk about mental health issues because for some, it's the memories or the knowledge they have of what mental health is. It's, like you're a mad person. You're going to go into an asylum. It's an insane asylum. They're going to put you in a straitjacket. So for a lot of older Black seniors, they're reluctant, and therefore there's not a lot of research out there. And I'm speaking for Canada. Eh? When you go to the United States, there's a lot on, if you do a Google search, seniors, mental health, Black, Afro, you'll find a lot. But in Canada, no. But yes, there are websites where you could find information on seniors. But if you're being specifically Black, there's not a lot. There's a great need for more data to be collected and studies to be done. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. So we come on to this now. Age and the intersectionality, and which is, the race, the age, and the gender. And again, I said there is not a lot of information out there. So this was quite ambitious of me to try to do something on seniors and mental health, particularly Black seniors. Now, men do experience concerns too, but it's more likely the women who have those compounded, unique situations. And, the diversity in the senior population is not really recognized. So you find that the data out there is very lacking, I would say. Now, there's a need for more data on Black seniors, as I said before. But one thing where I found some information that, of course, plays into this is the Human Rights Commission. They talked about older immigrants coming into Canada. A lower percentage of the women speak either of the official languages. In other words, most of the older women coming into Canada do not speak French or English, but most speak some other language. And of course, we know that language, the accessibility to information, and on top of that, it contributes to isolation, not receiving the information they need. So the older ACB or Black women, men too, are really, they are disadvantaged through language in a lot of cases. Now, when we look at the factors affecting individuals as they age, depression is not a normal part of aging. It's not. Yes, it's common among older adults. Research shows that older adults feel satisfied with their lives. However, changes happen in life that affects how they feel and will bring on more sadness and more stress. And when we isolate the Black seniors, you'll find that the additional negative social determinants adds to that. Now, older people, when they're depressed, it doesn't appear the same way as younger population. Somebody might say, oh yeah, you've been acting sad. That person has been acting really sad. They're depressed. That's not the first thing you may notice about a Black senior or about a senior, period. However, might find them, they're feeling tired, having trouble sleeping, they may be grumpy and irritable. And I know there's a lot of people taking care of their senior parents or whoever it may be. And they might be grumpy and they might be miserable, but we need to take a look at it. It's not necessarily that they're having Alzheimer's or some brain disorder. It could be that they are depressed. The symptoms are much less obvious, and the doctors are not very quick at diagnosing depression in seniors. So, if you are dealing with a senior person in your life, your mom, your grandma, whoever it may be, you have to be patient and observant. Older adults are less likely, any person is less likely to recognize mental health issues in themselves, unless they're really, you know, they have some kind of heightened awareness or they've had experience with it in the past. But for older adults, most of them won't recognize that because, it's from the thing about, oh, you're not feeling good, just get up and go, and that type of stuff. And the doctors are not recognizing it either. So if you have a senior in your life that you know, keep your eye open on them. And if you're a senior yourself, check yourself. You might be feeling irritable. It doesn't mean that you're just old and grumpy, as some people might say about you or me, but it's just that you could be depressed. Take a look at that. Now, the risk factors for aging mental health, for mental health among older adults, it's a little different. On top of the experiences of those negative social determinants, you find factors existing like, you know, loss of mobility, for example. They might not be able to move around, and they might have other chronic health problems. And remember that the global population is aging very rapidly. The World Health Organization predicts that between 2015 and 2050, the proportion of the world's population over 60 will more than double. Mental health is as important at any age, no matter where you are in life. It's very important. It's not because somebody might say, yeah, you're not going out to work anymore and all that stuff, how important it is. It really is, because it's as 15% of adults over 60 suffer from a mental disorder. And I know this statistics is not necessarily aimed at black people, but just take a look at that and do some math. Um, there's this extra piece that's very important that we may not pay a lot of attention to, and that's the vulnerability of elders for abuse. A lot of elders are isolated, maybe living by themselves, family relationships, anybody that will, reach out to them is important. Any connection is important. And that leaves them really vulnerable because some people might not be as kind and compassionate or they as they should be, right? So they could be suffering, verbal, psychological, financial, and even sexual abuse. Those seniors are vulnerable to those things too, and especially the women. So, but that's something for another webinar. So I'll pause. Okay, so we'll just go on. So you say, what can I do? What can I do? Stay connected. Speak to your support system. It could be your family, it could be your friends, it could be your pastor. And I know that faith is a big part of the life of many Black seniors. So take advantage of that. Look to your supportive network and reach out and take advantage of it. Now, another thing you can do is stay active. Stay active. Engage in activities or behaviors that promote a sense of physical well being. Do the physical activities that you enjoy. Engage in activities and behaviors that promote the psychological well being, that promotes your psychological well being. Do that, because if you stay isolated, it's gonna make things worse for you. It's difficult for anyone to deal with mental illness on their own. So that's where the network comes in. You need to have that network. So, find it and use it. If you are isolated, there are resources that you can reach out to. One thing I'd say though, as individuals age, things changes. So we have to be realistic, accept those changes and address them. You might find, oh, I need stronger glasses, or I need a hearing aid, or I need some kind of aid to walk. That all affects your mental health. Because if you don't take care of those, you're going to feel so incapacitated, and that could lead to some kind of depression. So take care of yourself, eat well, visit your doctor, make sure your medications are organized and in order. Those are things that you can do for yourself. So seek culturally appropriate professional help. There's your medical doctor, there's some psychotherapists, registered psychotherapists out there, registered psychologists, registered social workers, whatever resource you have, seek it. Maybe just talking to your friends might be good enough. There's also peer support, somebody who has experienced something and they're able to talk you through it. So there are some things that you can do for yourself. Eh? It's not just, this is it, I am done, and it's over. Stay active, look for new contacts. And so after you've done all that, if you have to reach out, there are additional resources. And there's a list with some resources, and we could go through that list of additional resources. There is the Seniors Safety Line. It's a 24/7 line. That's there for anyone who needs it. There is also 211 Ontario. That's another one where you can get information on, mental health resources, etc. You can also dial 911 if you're in immediate danger. And there is, of course, the Ministry for Seniors and Accessibility. And there's the Ontario.ca page where you can get information for seniors. And if you want more information, you can go to the Ottawa, you can go to the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition page, and you'll find information on mental health there. All right. So if you have any questions or comments, you could.
Thank you, Lesline. Just in the comments here, we have thank you. This is so helpful for our seniors and those who are caring for seniors. So in terms of for the people, another comment is, I'm a caregiver for my mom. What can I do to motivate her? You've mentioned a few things, but if you can just recap, and where could we be able to find you?
Yes. So you can find me at my website is lcmcounseling.com. www.lcmcounseling, and counseling is COUNSELLING, and my phone number is 613-841-3901. So you can get me there. Now, in terms of what can I do, supporting an elder or an older person, it's challenging. It's really challenging, and you have to go easy on yourself, because sometimes people feel so guilty. It's stress. It's stressful, and people feel guilty. But encourage them. Get help. You don't have to do it all by yourself. Include other family members. I know a lot of times that it falls on one person, and that a lot of people have a lot of things to say, but they're not helping. But reach out. That's the main thing. Reach out for help for yourself. Start with helping yourself first and then getting the information you need. You know, have the necessary documents in place. For example, if your loved ones need some kind of medical situation, is in some kind of medical situation, make sure you're equipped legally to deal with it. So what I would say to you is be informed as much as you can about what you're dealing with your elder, whether it be the illness, the treatments, whatever it is. A second thing is don't judge them. Don't judge them. Be respectful. Be kind. Be available to support, make calls for them. And sometimes with elders, we tend to take over. I'll do it for you. No, help them. Leave them that sense of autonomy and respect. And at this point, I'll just, give just a little anecdotal story. My mother-in-law was a very active woman, and she would go places, do things, etc. Of course, she never drove, so I'd go with her sometimes. And I would go in the store, and she would be speaking. Example, two examples I'll give. She went to the dry cleaners to pick up her clothes, and I was there with her. And the person, she was a short lady, the person was looking over her head straight in my eyes and yelling really loudly about what she came for. I had to inform her, I am not your customer. She is, one, and two, she's not deaf. So advocate, be there. Even in the doctor's office, I'd notice when I go with her how the nurse would be yelling. She wasn't deaf, but the nurse would be like yelling at her and looking at me. So we have to advocate for them, be available to support, know what to do in a crisis. And as I said before, keep yourself well. It's most important that you take care of yourself to be able to support the senior in your life. Yeah.
Thank you, Leslie. There's no more comments or questions in the chat. We will move to the calls to action for the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition. We want to thank our presenter, Leslie McEwan. You've heard all of her information, and we do have it on our website. Um, we would like to tell people to start talking about mental health. We do have other resources listed with Ottawa Public Health. They do have lists of ACB helplines. We also have it again on our website, but we also want to bring attention to the health system planning tables. If you are with the health system planning table, we would love to meet with you and connect with you through the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition. Our website is there, www.obmhc.ca. Please connect with the Ottawa Black Mental Health Coalition. Again, thank you so much, Leslie McEwan, on bringing this important to discussion with us. And tune in tomorrow, folks, for our next event. It is, this evening for our next event is on movement and mental health. So thank you again, and we look forward to seeing everyone again. Have a great morning.